Hello, Wolfpack. If we're going to bounce, it's going to be here. That's the topic of analysis in this video. I really don't think we're going to go lower without a bounce if we're going to have a chance of any bullish momentum at all. Because I can tell you right now, and a lot of people are calling for this, and I really don't understand why, right? They're calling for us to go all the way down here, okay, to around 40 to 42k. And line up, I'll actually match that up a bit better. So 40 to 42k and get a bounce off of this region, and they're kind of expecting something like this to happen, right? For us to come down, bounce off there, and go something like this. That's just not going to happen, right? I really don't need to explain why that's not going to happen. Yes, it's a major zone of support, and yes, that could be a potential catalyst for a dead cat bounce, right? If we don't bounce right now, if we come down here and see a dead cat like that, that's going to be a clear head and shoulders pattern, and that's my problem with that. That's my problem with that theory. It's like, if we come down to 42k, to 40k, and try and do something like this, like people are suggesting, the most obvious thing for us to do in that region is to come down and create a head and shoulders, right? That's the most obvious thing for us to do in terms of structure. I mean, we've had two rounding out patterns. We've had bearish RSI in both of them. It seems highly unlikely that we'll just, continue to be upside like nothing's ever happened if we go down there. I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is likely, right, is the fact that we will reach this region eventually. And whether we dead cat bounce here or dead cat bounce right here is the question. I think it's slightly more likely that we actually see a dead cat bounce right here, and when we get down to this region, we see sideways and then a drop, right? That's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking something like this, okay? A bounce here, drop down, sideways, and then further drop. That's what I'm expecting, right? But again, it is also likely that the general trend of my prediction is downwards still. Okay, but what I'm looking at the fact that, there is a lot of potential for upwards movement in this downwards trend. And that would come from the bearish RSI, okay, or the downtrending RSI, similar to what we had in September, okay, and also similar to what we had back here at the start of the year. I'm not going to draw it, but essentially we've had this twice before, okay? And every time it happens, every time we break out of the RSI, as you can see here, and as you can see here, which correlates to probably here and probably somewhere over here, we see a massive upwards trend. Now, this upwards trend has historically taken us to new all-time highs, but it doesn't particularly need to be the case, right? It could just be the catalyst to an upwards trend. We are quite a ways away from testing the RSI here, but the first positive sign, what we need to be seeing would be a bullish RSI divergence. We haven't actually seen that yet, which makes me believe that we could go a little bit further down to this box over here. However, it seems a little bit far-fetched to say that we'd go straight down all the way to this box. It could happen, as I've said, but I think it's more likely that we actually bottom out in this region. And the reason being is because of the weekly chart, which we'll look at in a second, right? When we do break this RSI, divergence, or whatever you want to call it, the RSI downtrend, okay, we're going to see a rally, a substantial rally. In this case, it'd probably take us somewhere over here to around 58. If we went down further and we completed that head and shoulders pattern, right, it would probably take us back up to 53, right, and we'd see something like that. The more bearish scenario, right, the more bearish scenarios we come all the way down here before bouncing, but I think there is a solid chance we bounce here, because, the thing is, I think there's a solid chance we move sideways, right? And if we move sideways in a region like this, more and more people would start to believe we're seeing something like September, and hence we'll see some bullish momentum, right? So moving sideways right now is not actually what we want to see if we're going from the bearish argument. If we're going from the bullish argument, we want to be seeing sideways movement, because the longer we move sideways, the more chance we're going to see a rally that breaks out of this RSI, and the more chance we're going to see an actual rally, right? What I will note is that we're actually below RSI levels we saw in July. The only RSI levels we're not below currently is the ones we saw literally on one day in May. So we are bottomed out massively here. The MACD is fast approaching levels that we saw in May as well, right, during the May crash. The MACD is certainly primed for a bullish MACD cross that could take us substantially upwards. I really don't think that the upside breakout will take us to new all-time highs. However, for various reasons that I've spoken about in the past, I'm not going to speak about them again. Go back and watch my previous videos. I've literally done like 5 videos on it now. But as for the, some of the technical analysis here, we can see on the Bollinger Bands, we're dramatically undervalued on the Bollinger Bands, right? We're just kind of riding the downside. We've been doing that for almost a month here, so we're due for some upwards relief on that. However, it is worth saying we did ride the upside here in October, all the way from October to, almost November, late November. So you can go for an extended period of time on the upside or downside. Same thing here, it happened in May to July, right? The whole time we were just on the downside here. As for the VVPR, We're currently, and this is one of the reasons why I think we might bounce here, okay? We're currently testing a major area, a major zone of support on the VVPR, right? It's telling us that a lot of buying momentum is coming in from above 47K, right? The moment we drop below 47K, which we actually did, right? And this is one of the reasons why it's hard to say for certain. We actually dropped below the POC on the daily close. You can see that the POC here is here at 47.6K, and we closed the daily candle at about 47.2K. Right, so we dropped, or even lower than that actually. We dropped below it briefly, but now we're kind of wicking back up to the upside. So yeah, it is possible here, and this is why I'm thinking that a bounce is likely in this region, in conjunction with another reason I'm going to show you on the weekly chart, that right here above 47K we'll see a bounce. If we drop below 47K, and this is why it doesn't really matter to me, because we have such a small invalidation range, right? If we drop below 47K definitively, the next obvious target is 42K. All right, that's the next obvious target. And the reason 42K, not 40K, is because 42K is this crevice in the VVPR. And usually what you see is bottoming out in the crevice, right? And then you see wicks down here that get eaten up, and then we see moves to the upside. So if we lose 47K, nothing in between matters except for 42K. Right, so that's how I'm looking at it right now. Above 47K, we're likely to see a bounce. If we lose 47K, anything below that region doesn't matter until 42K. In fact, you may as well just wipe it out, right? It's all blank. We're not going to bounce before 42K if we lose 47. That whole 5K region is irrelevant to me. It doesn't mean anything. There's no support in that region. It won't do anything, okay? In fact, we've seen very little happen in that region this entire year. It's been a bit of a blank region besides here in September, right? We've just kind of skipped past it in the whole earlier part of this year. So bounce above 47K. If we lose 47K, we're bouncing at 42K. Either way, I think we're going to enter a bear market, all right? But it's just whether, how we enter it. As for Ethereum, if we're going to see an altcoin season, okay, which I've never said is a certainty. I've always said it's an if. If we're going to see an altcoin season, it will happen if we bounce above 47K, in my personal opinion, okay? What we're seeing right now is actually a hidden bullish divergence on the RSI on the weekly chart, okay? And we want to be bouncing right now. We've seen a bearish MACD cross as well, and one of the reasons why we want to be bouncing right here above 47K is because if we want any chance of actual bullish momentum to sustain, we want to be flattening out this MACD. We've got 2 days into a daily close. If we close this candle green and we start to see that dead cat relief rally, that would start to flatten out the MACD, and hence would give us a chance, at least a chance, of creating new all-time highs in that dead cat bounce. Obviously, there's lots of resistance to look at that I haven't even drawn here, including that uptrending level of support. There's a ascending or descending wedge formation that's acting as resistance right now as well. But that's what I'm looking at as well for the RSI and the MACD. We can remove the VVPR here. We can see on the Bollinger Bands, we're actually tightening right here on the Bollinger Bands, narrowing massively. We'll narrow even further on the 2-day candle, which means that a move is on the way. Doesn't necessarily mean there will be an upside move. However, we are in an upwards trend currently, and hence it could be another signal that the bounce that I'm assuming is going to be a dead cat bounce could be coming, right? If we hold above 47K. As for the SMAs here, we have the 26 SMA holding us for support on the weekly candle, and we also have, let's delete some of this stuff so I can pull something up here, the bull market support band, and we'll pull up also the 200 and the 50-week SMA, okay? This is what I'm looking at. This red line here is what I'm looking at a lot, and you would have seen this if you watched any of my previous videos in the last week or so. Let's actually let's pull up the visibility here. We can go a little bit more green for the green one. All right, so the red one is the 50-week SMA. The green one is the 200-week SMA, and the bull market support band is consisted of the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, okay? What we typically see in bull runs, I'm going to go over this over and over and over again because it's very important right now, is we see a drop down, okay? We lose the bull market support band and we bounce off of the 50-week, okay? And then we drop down further, okay? Happened in 2013, happened in 2017, okay? We lost the bull market support band, we bounced off the 50-week, we dropped down further, okay? Same thing will be likely to happen here. It happened in 2019 as well, okay? Bounce down, lost the bull market support band, bounce off the 50-week, and then drop down further to a 200-week SMA, okay? So if we're going to see that pattern, and there is reason to believe, and there is a very solid reason to believe, sorry, let me just check my battery here quickly. Okay, there is solid reason to believe that we are going to be following that pattern, okay? We've dropped off the bull market support band. We will most likely be bouncing off the 50-week, and this is why I think it's likely for the most part, okay? And the 50-week for reference, is stationed at around 47.38k. All right, so 47,300. All right, so we need to be bouncing off of that, and that's why I said below 47, we're going straight to 42, right? Above 47, we're very likely to bounce, okay? So what would likely happen on a dead cat bounce like this is bouncing off the 50-week. In my opinion, it won't take us any higher than 58k. Okay, that's what I've said before. If it takes us above 61k, that is confirmation that the bull market is back in business. Okay. If it takes us below, to 58k or below, that's just a dead cat bounce and nothing's happened in terms of structure. Most people should be telling you that. Okay. And most people are telling people that. You would have seen on Twitter, above 61k, I'm bullish, or above 60k is a common one, I'm bullish, right? That's what I'm saying as well. I'm saying that between 48k and 60k, there's very little reason to be bullish, okay? I think this dead cat bounce can take us anywhere from 53 to 58k if we see it at current prices. If we see it at 42k, it should be taking us anywhere from, around 42k to 53k, okay? I don't think it's going to take us all the way up to 58 from 42. So look, the most logical formation we would see now is a bounce right here, okay? It would last maybe a couple months, and then we drop down and we see obviously a little sideways movement here, and then we'd actually be bottoming out in November or December, most likely December 2022, which would be on the 200-week SMA, wherever that may be at that time. In my opinion, it'll be somewhere in the mid 20Ks, maybe low 30s, okay? So the whole premise of this video is, if we're going to bounce, the most likely time to do it is now. If we don't do it now, we'll do it at 42k, right? Because we can't drop straight down. Even if you're bearish, it's completely illogical. You can't just go straight down. It's not how markets work, right? It's like when we see the upside, we see corrections, okay? We see corrections, but we keep heading upwards. When we see the downside, we see bounces, but we keep heading downwards, okay? And I guarantee you on every single one of these bounces, there will be bulls screaming that the bull market's back in business, just like how on the upside, every single bear is screaming for a bear market when there's a correction, okay? I don't think this is a healthy correction anymore, not because of how much percent we have gone down, but because of the critical levels we have lost that we haven't lost previously in any other bull market or in any other bullish phase in the market, okay? We haven't lost these levels without entering a bear market. We are in a very significant time right now. And I think it's very, very, very worth paying close attention to the charts for the next couple of weeks, particularly the next week, because if this bounce comes, it's probably going to be within the next week, within the next weekly candle, because we don't usually see much sitting around on the 50-week SMA, right? It's usually just a bounce off of it. Well, not like that, but it's usually just a bounce off of it and then something like that, right? That's what we're probably going to be seeing. So again, last time, above 47k, we're likely to see a bounce to 53k to 58k. Go below 47k, we'll see that bounce at 42k, probably up to 53k, no higher. Okay, that's how I'm looking at the market. Above 61.1k, that's easy mode. Get back into the market. This is kind of like a simpleton way of explaining the market right now. Why would you get into the market when it's on hard mode? Wait for it to be on easy mode again. Literally, sometimes no trade is the best trade you can make. I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.